Hello, welcome to the Critical Obsession podcast. My name is Mirella,
And I'm Zoe.
and today we're going to watch and talk about the second part of Not Me, episode 2.
I'm so excited.
Me too. I don't really remember what's happening in this part of this episode.
No, I'm trying to think. Like I don't want to remember before we watch it, but like I was just thinking about it before. Pretty much everything that I think I remembered about this episode has already happened. And so
I
yeah,
know
there's
two
something there's
things.
there's
Two
something that
things.
happens there's something that happens in this like immediate part we're about to watch in part 3 or 4. But beyond that, I don't really
Oh, I
remember.
remember three things. Okay, let's just watch before I start remembering more.
I'm like,
Just
is it
start
weird that
together.
I'm jealous that you remembered? All right, yeah, let's watch
Yes,
it because that's I feel like that's the only way.
let's go.
All right, part 3 of 4. So I just have to say this: it's not episode related, but at the beginning of the third part, like there's two advertisements. There's one for Mama OK noodles, and then there's one for Sang Sang soy milk.
Mhm.
And the one for Sing Sing Soy Milk, it's like OffGun are actually in the commercial. And they're all like dressed in white and it's all sunny and bright and it's so far from like their characters in the show. It's like whiplash. It's like really like wow. And it's funny because I remember like I had one of my K-pop friends watch this show and I remember she was like, holy she's like, wait, is that them? I'm just like, yeah, she's like, wow, they look so different. I was like, I know, right? That's how good they are. But yeah. So,
Mhm.
and then it's funny because we were talking in the last podcast about, I said, oh, he hurt himself, right? And I said his arm, but yeah, so he burnt his hand. That's right. I had forgotten it was his hand. I don't know why. I thought it was his like forearm for some reason. Um, and we have like concerned Graham,
Yeah, and he
and
needs to get away from them. He needs
he
to,
does
and need
like
some time to
he
himself.
practically he practically runs from them basically. And I love
Yeah,
how like Sean says to Graham, like he's like let him go, and then turns around and just like starts laying into him.
yeah,
Because there was someone in the house. It's like, you told us the house was empty. And then we get this scene of like Yoke and Sean and Graham all fighting about the guy in the house, about Una.
yeah. And Graham turns to Sean, who's not like newly self-appointed leader, and like, what do we do now? Graham is panicking, and
Yeah.
Sean doesn't know.
He's like, I don't fucking know. But yeah, because
Yeah,
he
I
was
was the
pissed.
leader for a moment. I cannot hold this up for long.
Yeah. And Sean is pissed as well because like Yoke has just revealed to them that the guy saw his face as well. So you have
Yeah,
this like
so
added danger aspect to it.
the plan was kind of a disaster. Nothing completely drastic happened, but it must feel like a disaster. It did not go according to their
No.
expectations.
It was a high stress situation already that just went out of control, which is
Mm.
exactly, it's funny once again, like there's a couple of metaphors in this episode. And that is sort of one in itself, in that they used fire to address a problem, control a problem, but fire is not something that you can control. Like it is an
Yeah.
uncontrollable, element. So
Hmm.
things got away from them, which is exactly what happens. Um and so then of course we get
See
this
what?
scene, and I love this scene.
Me too. Me too.
So White is like having this like mental breakdown, and it's like I guess he's like hallucinating Black. Like, oh my god, White Gunn is such a good actor. Like this scene like kind of freaks me, as well as like
Yes.
in is so
Yes. He
interesting.
looks scary. The way
Yeah, he
he's walking,
does.
the way he's walking towards him, even the way Black moves looks unsettling. He's like
Hmm.
this. He's like unhuman in a
Yeah,
way. His
strange and
face
dangerous.
is hidden by the shadows. He is kind of blurry. He's silent, and it makes him even more dangerous.
Did you
The,
notice
you
too
cannot,
as well, like when
yeah,
they're focusing on Black and White is talking, you you see like the muscle in his cheek is ticking, like he's clenching his teeth as well. Like it's just this
Mhm.
little tiny acting nuance that Gunn has done as
Like
Black,
he's
and
angry.
it's
Why
so,
is he
yeah,
a person that he does not understand? And he's now also mysterious, but in a scary way, and he
yeah.
cannot respond because he does not understand him. This is why he
Hmm.
cannot
Yeah,
receive
that's
an
what.
answer for
Yeah,
his
Black
answers.
doesn't say anything to him. That's right. And this thing that he says here, I know that not everyone is equal, exactly equal under the law, but what you're doing here is demolishing the law yourself. Like, why are you doing this? And I just said we don't get a response
This is how you
because
fight. Yeah. White is kind of disappointed
he
by
is,
Black
because he
right
doesn't.
now.
But at the same time, here he's still like he doesn't understand. Like, I
He
mean,
tried to reach out to him, but it's impossible.
and he doesn't have all the information. Like, he
Yeah.
doesn't know. He's so sheltered and so like
Information,
like
but all the information that he has access to does not point a pretty picture.
no. And the thing with it is as well is he's just so blind to what's happening around him, and not just like the fact that these guys aren't just doing it to be, troublemakers or whatever, but like we you slowly will start we start to get to see, and I don't know that we get to see much of it in this episode, but like as we go on, especially next episode, he slowly starts to see like the world and like his position in it in a much clearer way, which is like he gets a glimpse of like why Black would be angry, like why
So
Black would be.
funny. It's so not funny, but it's just interesting how Todd suggested him to be a bystander in this thing that they did with Tawi's house. Just be there, do not get involved, just go with the flow. Just, it's not your fault, whatever. And it's basically what he does in his life, right?
Yeah,
He is a part of this system, he just goes with the flow. Bad things are happening around him, but he does not get involved, and he does not really think too much about it. But once he realizes, once it's just too clear to ignore, he cannot just continue
the
holding on
way
to his
things work.
ignorance.
Yeah, because what's happening with him at the moment, like his entire life, he's not an active participant in his own destiny, like in his own
Mhm.
life. He, as you said, he just exists there. Like he's just doing what is expected of him. And
He's
and
ignorant.
yeah, and by doing that, yeah, it narrows your worldview very much. Like you don't it's like I always feel sorry for people who don't read and things like that, or like some version of like reading, whether it's like watching documentaries, whether it's like, and by that I mean like
Listen.
not yeah, listening to podcasts. Not everybody like reads, but do you know what I mean? Like people who just go about their daily lives without any outside stimuli. I always feel so sorry for them, because like you're so you're like your worldview and everything is so insular, like you're so isolated, and you can never really understand other people, you can never be sympathetic, really empathetic, you can never really like experience things from different points of view. I mean, sometimes that's hard anyway, because let's face it, like I can't understand, you know to a full extent, like what another person is going to say, like on the other side of the world, or like whatever. But I can learn, I can try and understand, I can try and experience it, I can feel their pain through their words, or whatever. But people who don't go looking for things like that, I always feel so sorry, because it must be. And the thing is, I guess, because as you said, like because they're so ignorant of things, they don't even realize that they're missing out on something. They don't realize that, like, there's this whole other world out there. There's this that like not everybody is like you, or like not, and it's just, I don't know. I mean, I guess they're never gonna know like how sad that is, because they're so isolated in their own like little world. But
It
like,
is. Zoe, ignorance is bliss, isn't it?
Yeah, well, like that's that. There's a reason why that saying exists, I guess. But yeah, it's just I don't know. I had some friends that were very very much like that, and even now into like adulthood, like they're, I sometimes hear stories from other people, and I think, oh, God, they've just like never done anything. But then probably from their perspective, they probably look at me and go, oh my God, she's still doing that, or she's like, like, wow, she hasn't, done this, or any of the traditional things. And I don't know. So I mean, maybe that's my ignorance, I don't know. But it's just, yeah, I've always just, yeah, it's really really, and he is very much in that situation. Like he knows all about like the things that like his father thinks he should know about, or like he thinks he should learn about, or whatever. So he has like a broad spectrum understanding of the world as it is, but not like he doesn't understand his function in
Yeah.
it. So, and of course, then we have Sean who goes looking for him.
With the
He's
flashlight again.
and he's all
He
harsh in
searches
this
for
scene.
him.
Like he's all harsh again, like what you were saying
The
before. And
bad
it's,
cop.
yeah, it's weird too, because it's like he's just come upon Black, right? Who is crying to, like, he has tears streaming down, like streaking down his face, and he's called to him. And he says, we're leaving, come on, let's go. Like, he's very no nonsense. And this must be like a
But I feel like this would be appropriate to act like this with Black because Black would not accept
sympathy.
comfort from,
Yeah.
yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but I don't imagine that Black is someone who would ever cry like around anybody. Like this is I feel like if he ever cried at all, he would wait until he was like locked in a room like on his own where no one could possibly accidentally stumble upon him.
I don't
Like,
know. They go through pretty extreme situations. I feel like you never know. In
true.
such situations,
But it's just
you
like,
never
yeah,
know.
I'm like, it's interesting to me though the way he is. Like he's, and as you said, what you're saying makes complete sense. That this would be the way to, like, if he was to address the fact that Black was crying to Black, like he'd probably get his face slapped. So yeah, I get that. And then the scene where White comes out and says, "I quit." Once again, another masterpiece. Like the way this was shot, the way it's like the
Yeah.
direction of it, the
Yeah.
way Yoke just looks at Sean, and
York
neither
looks
he,
scared. I'm not sure he looks at Sean or at Graham because Graham is the one does not look very surprised.
yeah, but
All his teeth does
neither,
not.
yeah, but neither of them say anything. Like it's like I thought he looked to Sean because Sean had taken on this mantle of like
I
direction.
th- I think maybe he looked at Graham because Graham knows Black best out of all
Mhm.
of them.
I
Because
mean,
Black did not look very shaken. It was York. York's face was scared. Sean was like searching for something. Sean was bargaining. He was in denial. He tries to reason with him. He, calls to him.
mm-mm. I mean, I think the thing is, as you said, like Graham is,
You know,
uh, he straight away latches onto the idea that Black almost died, and so he's shaken.
I think Graham witnessed some moments where Black was more vulnerable. Like he knows Black has weaknesses. He probably knows that he needs some time off. He's the one who suggests separating. He's the one that sees him more as a person.
Mm-mm.
And but it is a very very interesting, very nicely shot scene, and
Mm.
you can
Well,
see
the
that
way,
you can see how much it means for them to them what is happening right now, because if Black breaks, they all break.
yeah, and it's once again we have Sean who approaches him, and we get the emotion from Sean. Like it's here, it's in his voice. Like
Yes, it's right.
when he says to him, what are you talking about? Like you can
What
hear that
happened?
emotion, like it shakes his
Mhm.
voice. And then he
Yeah.
walks away shaking his head, like it's disappointment, it's disillusion, and he's just like, but
Depression.
when he approaches White, like he puts his hand on him again, like when he asks that question, and it's like just asking that question to him, like where he says like, "What are you talking about?" Like it breaks Sean a little bit.
Yes. And then he looks at White, I mean Black, while he's being bandaged and he's crying. And what I'm seeing here, I remember reading comments where I was one while watching this, and people were kind of confused regarding why he is crying, because he was obviously not in love yet with
No, but
White.
I have
Or
so many thoughts about this thing.
one thought. I have one sentence that is most defined in my head. He's
Mhm.
alone again here.
Yeah,
He did not
it's
feel alone in his mission, in his
mm,
uh, life. He felt like he had a purpose, but now he's left alone again.
mm-mm. Well, it kills me because like we have Graham who like suddenly becomes the voice of reason, as you said, and he's like, okay, let's split because this was the plan. The plan was we get here, we split up, and he says, Black, you come with me, and like show me your hand. This must hurt. Let me bandage it for you. And he starts taking care of him, and Sean is watching them, as you said, and then he turns away, and we see that he's crying, and it's
Mhm.
like this whole thing was so stressful. It was so
Yeah,
emotional for Sean. Like, like if Black quits, they're not finished yet. Like, they haven't reached all of their goal. So it would be devastating to Sean. It would
yeah.
be like whatever. But like this scene here, it's like, I don't know, like I get all of that, but I also get like he wants to be the one. I don't know. I have it's this weird vibe. Like I don't get jealousy. It's not jealousy. It's like maybe it's because stuff that happens later, but there's this like mm, the way he's been the one who's been handling White. Like I don't know what it is. Hard to explain, but it's like I feel like there's this. It's almost like he is the one who wants to be doing what Graham is doing, but like he can't. It's like
I don't know. I'm not seeing that, to be honest, because I think he still sees Black as Black here. And
yeah,
what he sees in Black is his weakness right now.
well, I
Black
see
breaking,
that
not
too. Like
being
I'm not discounting that.
someone that he needs.
Yeah, I'm not discounting that, but for me, like
Mhm.
personally, I feel like because what we have to like I feel like in all of these scenes that we're seeing, there are little tiny moments in all of them where stuff is happening. And that's why like when we get to episode whatever it is and it's very clear that there's something between them and everyone was like, "Oh, I don't get it. Like when did this happen?" I was like, "It was fucking there the whole time." Like and this is one of the scenes that I sort of saw something. You know what I mean? Like and I don't so I'm not discounting what you're saying. I completely agree with that. I feel like that is a main motivation for this scene. But it's like, I feel like if you're thinking about everything from Sean's perspective, it must be so weird for him to be in this position where he doesn't like this person, but he needs him. And then suddenly this person is messing everything up. They're causing problems. They're frustrating you. They're making you afraid because they're making you feel these things that, you know, he's making, even though he still thinks he's Black or like whatever, because he thinks he's Black the entire time, like that doesn't change, but like in
Mhm.
these moments like he's making Sean feel all of like not just like but negative things like fear, frustration, anger, anxiety, like all of this shit that he probably has kept locked in little boxes for such a long time. The main point is, besides like anger is Sean's entire divining nature. Like it's like what drives him. And so suddenly you're getting all of these little things that are happening, and it's all being caused by this person who, as you said, his entire like whatever is hinged on at this point in time. And it seems like they're also this person's being vulnerable with you in a way as well that you've never experienced, and you don't know what to make of it, and all these things are happening, and it's like you feel something, and it's not necessarily like I'm not trying to say like he has feelings for him, but like he feel White is making him feel stuff, right? Like in general, like, and he probably has not been feeling anything except for fucking angry for so long. And it's like So you feel something, but you don't want to feel anything for this person, like not sympathy, not like whatever, like not you don't want to, you don't, and it must be so friggin' confusing for him.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I feel
Hmm.
like in this scene, and this is what I was trying to say, like in this scene, besides what you're saying, because I definitely think that's what's going on as well, there's something here. Like he's slowly being sucked into this, like he's coming alive again. He's becoming a real boy, like with all of the negative emotions as well as like these occasional like he sure oh sorry white being like or black in his vision being this like vulnerable creature with him as well is throwing him because he doesn't know what to
And
make of
plus,
it, but also it's
what
making him
is
feel something else which he doesn't explain. I mean, he doesn't understand.
White White is questioning their purpose, their motivation. He suddenly what they did is not a good thing. Suddenly he views them as the villains, and
Mhm.
Sean doesn't need that.
No.
This is why later he asks Namo who are they, heroes or vigilantes?
Yeah,
Because
because he
now
needs he needs that backup.
and this is caused by White being there in that mission, by everything that White says, that the fact that White decides to leave, by the fact that White almost died, by the fact that he acts the way he acts. So yeah, it must be very must be upsetting and
Yes.
confusing
But
for
I think,
Sean.
but the other thing is though, like the fact that he asks those things and the fact that he's now doubting certain things is because like there is a kernel, there is a tiny little seed of doubt growing in him. There is a tiny little seed of like respect and tied up, wrapped up in a bow of fear and like admiration and just like weird feelings that are growing inside him for black, aka white, that's triggering all this because he wouldn't doubt himself if he didn't like value what was being said by this person. You know what I mean?
But it
Like
must be so freaking confusing
it
because
is
he thinks
because
he is black.
yes,
And why the
it's
hell? Why? This person was like a
exactly,
rock
exactly. And so that's
who
what I'm
he
trying to
followed.
yes, and so that's what I was trying to say. Like when we get to that stage where there, it's very clear that there's something going on or whatever, and people were like confused. I was like, this okay, yeah, it's not love here, but something is happening. It's so obvious. Like there's this volatility to like all of their interactions, and it's like even when he says like there's something that happens later on and Goomba says to him like take care of him or whatever and he's like fuck why I don't want to, but yet he's drawn to him. Like he keeps following him because he suspects, not suspects him, but like is concerned about his behavior or whatever and he's worried about it fucking up plans and all that sort of stuff. But the problem is he is just as fixated on White as White is on Sean. Like they're all of their attention is on one another, like, and it's just it gets worse and worse, like, or better
Or
depending on yeah,
better.
depending on your point of view. But you know what I mean? Like it's just
Yeah.
he is without knowing it, he's immersing himself in this other person who has been yeah, like probably one of the most important people in his life because he was helping him to pursue his like vengeance or whatever. But like
Giving him a
now
purpose.
now it's different. It's like he's and but he was like a person, but like he wasn't a person. Now he's a
Yeah.
person, and he all of a sudden he has all of these other sides to him, and these sides of him are making you feel shit, and you don't know how to compute that. So you have to go looking for outside sources like your friend and say like, hey, I think this. I'm right? Because you need someone else to tell you you're right because this other person who you shouldn't care what they think is telling you you're wrong and it's
Yeah.
really bugging you because you think maybe they might be right. And it's just like yeah, so this scene here and like the crying and that, like, this was the vibe I got. Like besides, as I said, besides him being concerned about all that other stuff, I was just like, this is stuff is happening here. Like, if we're looking for it, it's happening. Like, Sean is breaking a little bit into pieces where he's probably been locked up like a freaking steel drum, which was just full of anger with no self preservation, didn't give two shits about anything, just
Like
wants
the
to get his
fire.
revenge.
was just ready to consume everything around
That's right.
him to
Yeah.
get to what he wanted.
And suddenly it's like he's met White, and White is like water.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then we get like this other beautiful aerial scene. And it's a scene of like Graham and Black, aka White, on the bike. And it's like it's a really this is what I was talking about metaphors before. This is a really interesting metaphor here. I feel like this was like a visual metaphor that was used to show us that like after the darkness comes the light.
Yeah.
And we have this whole conversation about how Black was the one
Just
that,
like in just like in Last Twilight, there's always a new day.
yeah, a new dawn, yeah. And we have this like conversation between Graham and White about how Black was the one who taught him how to ride a motorcycle, and we
I like how Graham thinks Black said something that he did not mean, and you could interpret that he might have said that because he was disappointed in them. He maybe was disappointed in the mission. He thinks they're not good enough. It depends on the point of view of the person who perceived this situation. And
I feel
he
like he
already
says
is
that
using.
I feel like he says that to him though, like about like how he had a near death experience. But I feel like he's giving him an
Yes, he
out. Like
already uses. He's already using this justification.
yeah, but he's also giving him a like he's giving him an opening to take it back.
Yeah.
You know what I
Oh,
mean?
and also I love how um they say Graham says Black taught Graham to ride a motorbike, and I'm thinking he probably filled Graham's life with purpose as well, because maybe Graham was this passionate person who didn't really know what he wants. He doesn't really know what he wants now either,
Mm,
but like generally speaking, he kind of knows in what direction to follow. And I also like the fact that he mentions Black telling him freedom is the oxygen of the soul, which is a very beautiful quote.
mm,
Because this is exactly what White needed to hear. He
yeah,
needed to hear a nice story about Black, a story that humanizes him,
yeah, that's right.
because he started seeing him as this
Villain.
in that abandoned building, yeah, like this unsettling creature, like a monster or a ghost from a horror story, because that's how he looked in that building, in that
Yeah.
vision that he had.
And that's because that's how everyone's been framing him. And
Yeah,
then, and accompanying, it's interesting because, and accompanying all of that, the story and everything, it's in this beautiful setting, where, um, the
full of life.
sunlight is filtering through through White's fingers, and the cinematography is amazing, and the music is amazing. And it's this really beautiful, positive thing. So that's totally the vibe I feel like they were going for in that, giving him this like pure, almost pure like insight into his brother and who he is.
Yeah, I think this is the first time when he hears something positive about his brother.
Well, I
Him
mean, Todd.
teaching Graham, spending a whole day with Graham, teaching him to ride a motorbike, telling him freedom is the oxygen of the soul. This is a very hopeful thing to say.
Mm-mm. I mean, Todd is clearly concerned, like seems to be clearly concerned about him, which invokes the thought that
Graham,
like he. Sorry.
Graham,
No, no, Todd.
Todd.
Todd, when he approaches White about all of this, he is concerned about Black, which leads you to think that like he is somebody that Todd at least feels has value and should be, taken care of or should
Mhm.
be cared about or like whatever. So he
Yes,
has
but
that as
Todd
well.
is connected. I think Todd is connected to the old version of Black, the
That's
version
right.
that White knew as well. But these people know the new version of Black that
Exactly.
White doesn't know, and he doesn't like this version of
No,
Black so far.
he needs both to tie together, yeah. So
They're
and then
very disconnected. They're disconnected, this new Black and the old Black that he knew.
mm-mm-mm. And then we, as you said, we saw Sean and his friend, who is also an artist, and they're talking about what happened at Tawi's house. And he said, as you said, he says to his friend, like, "Do you think these people are heroes or vigilantes?" And it's funny because she says she doesn't know in the beginning, and then
Mhm.
she says, "You want me to say heroes, don't you? Because you and your friends think they're heroes." And so she ends up referring to them as heroic vigilantes. Um,
She knows, she knows, she knows.
but it's
She
like,
knows. I think she knows it was them.
well, I mean, I don't know if she knows specifically that it was them, but like
Suspects.
she knows that they don't. She knows they have an issue with him, which is interesting. Or
Or
she
she
knows
knows
Sean
that
does.
they do something and it might be them.
Mm-mm-mm. But yeah, and then we
They're doing
switch.
something, you know?
Yeah, and then we switch and we
Yeah.
see White the diplomat.
Yes. This is exactly what I wrote. White the diplomat. With
it's,
ink on his white shirt.
it's so
I
funny
remember,
because
was it you? Was it you
it's
the one who talked about how it's like covering um it's white but it has an imperfection. It's shows a system that it's not actually perfect, and you're covering perfection with something that is fake, not really it's not really a remedy, but it's just something to mask the ugly
problem
thing.
underneath. Yeah,
I
well,
don't
because
know, someone else, was it you or
I
did I
don't
read it
remember.
somewhere?
I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember any of the stuff I wrote about not this, but like it could have been me or it could have been someone else.
Hmm.
Um
If it was someone else and that person is listening, this is a nice idea. Thank you. And sorry that I'm
and
not mentioning. I really don't. I do not
and
remember
I'm
where I
not
heard
going to
this.
take ownership for it because it sounds way too insightful for me. But and I'm gonna preference that with I actually did have a similar thought when I was watching it. It is a temporary cover up of a problem. It
Hmm.
hasn't gotten rid of the problem, the underlying. And it's interesting to me as well, like not interesting, but like it's funny to me in actual fact because he does this thing, but they leave the pen in his pocket.
Hmm.
And it's like the pen is still leaking ink. Like take the pen out. Like that at least would stop the problem from getting bigger. And I was like, is this
Yes,
some other kind of metaphor that we're getting here? Or is this just like, I don't know, one of those things that it was like
something.
just wasn't thought about, but yeah. And it's this
It's a
scene,
very interesting conversation what they have with this guy. I
yeah.
like him.
This scene is the beginning of White basically opening his fucking eyes up and starting to
Opening his
see,
mind.
yeah, or starting to see like what the fuck is actually going on around him. We don't you don't see it so much here, but like this is the beginning of it. Meeting this guy is a huge eye-opening experience for.
Actually, I like how it's happening to the both of them. They're both questioning. They're like on the opposite parts of
Mm-mm.
this situation, White and Sean, and they both have this encounter with someone. They have this conversation where they like need to hear just they ask for someone else's opinion on what happened because they started doubting their point of view,
Well, they're on dual
both of them.
journeys, aren't they? This is
And
the
they just
thing.
they
This
need
is
to meet in the middle.
Yeah, this is the thing. This is what I was talking about. Like, besides being like wholly, like completely tuned in to one another, they're now affecting the way the other thinks. They're experiencing the same thing, the same doubts, the same fears, the same, And it's interesting because um you have two sides of the coin here where you have Sean
Mhm.
who wanted to hear something and she told him exactly what he wanted to hear.
Mhm.
And then we have White, who is like questioning everything about what happened, what they did. And he's like, he's thinking we're bad, we're in the wrong, we're whatever. And then you've got this completely separate person who's going, well, actually, no, I can see why they did this because, like, this is literally the only way that you would have people sit up and take notice. But then he does preference it with the fact that it's not something he would do because he's not willing to risk his freedom, because technically they broke the rules, they broke the law. There will be, if they ever get caught, there'll be consequences for their actions. And so, but essentially you've got someone going like, no one got hurt, they didn't really do anything like wrong kind
I
of thing.
don't
So
think so. I think, I actually think they both said they both received gray answers, because what she said, she did not answer that they are heroes. She said heroic vigilantes,
I
and
know
this
that, but
is,
like this
she
was
said
more
the
kind.
same thing.
Yeah,
Sean
true.
wanted to hear that they were heroes. White wanted to hear that they were vigilantes, and the opinions that they heard was heroic vigilantes from both the people.
Yeah, actually, you're right. He just said it in a much more eloquent way than she did. But it's it. But what I yeah. But what I'm saying is, it's interesting because Sean wanted to hear something and he got to hear half of what he wanted to hear,
Mhm.
whereas White, like the answer that White got was not what he was expecting, and it's not like necessarily what he wanted, but it's actually probably what he needed to hear
Mm.
to be able to move past like the
He
trauma that this
expected.
caused
He
him.
expected to hear because he thought they were vigilantes, just as Sean thought they were heroes.
Yeah.
Also, the interesting things that are happening in this dialogue. The guy asks him, "Is this the first time you're taking the test?" Which suggests that people take this test multiple times, and we know that White does not need to do that.
Mm-mm.
And then
Well,
he,
he says like, no, I haven't, but I don't think
Mhm.
it's going to be a problem. Well, because no, of
Yeah,
course it's not.
and then he asked, "Are you prepared?" And then, "Not really, but I'll be fine." Because yeah, of course you will be fine.
Yeah.
And like he doesn't know why, but this is how things work for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
He did not really put too much thought into
Yeah.
why
He
this
didn't
is
have to
like this
try
for him.
hard. He didn't have
Yeah,
to
well,
try
that
hard.
guy, it is obviously that he did try multiple times, that he did learn a lot. He has this insights that he is willing to share just because he is kind with
Well, I
this
think
guy that he
also,
just met.
I think in this moment too, as well, like he kind of feels a little bit sorry for White in
Oh,
that, like he's got this, this thing has
naive.
happened to him with his shirt, and this is his first time, and,
Yeah.
all this sort of stuff. And it's so interesting what happens later between them.
Hmm.
So, yeah. And then, of course, White sits his test
I'm curious because I never found out the answer.
to the
He
fruit question.
responds yes to the fruit question. Did he answer correctly? Because I feel like he didn't. Yeah.
I don't actually know. And do you know what? It's funny because you said that. I feel like I looked it up at the time, but I don't remember.
Huh.
So we'll look it up and we'll see whether he was right or wrong. Because he said mangoes, didn't he? A type of mangoes. I'm like, how
I
many
think
types
so.
of mangoes could there be? I don't know.
I have
I
no
just
idea.
eat them. I just eat them. I don't know like anything about their species. I'm
Mangoes do
mango
not grow around
ignorant.
here. Yeah, okay. So
Part
let's
four.
go watch part four.
Okay, let's do it. Part four of episode 2 of Not Me. Um, Before we get started, I feel like I need to say that he was wrong.
There's
It
only
was not mango.
planet, isn't there?
I looked it up. It's I think it says durian or whatever. It's that I think it's a fruit that's native from Thailand, but I could be wrong. But I've
Mhm,
seen people like on travel shows, or I feel like it was like America's Next Top Model or something. They went there and like tried this fruit, and I think
mhm,
it's an acquired taste. Like I don't think it's like a fruit for everybody.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, I so he would have got that one wrong, but I bet he got it right. She says with a like skeptical, Anyway, I'm just being funny, but yeah. So he
So,
was wrong.
so
It was
is
not a
so
mango.
it's oh, it's not a mango.
No.
I thought
So
so because this is the impression that it left, this scene, without knowing the real answer. It made me think
mhm.
that he got it wrong. I
Yeah, that's
assumed he got it.
it's an interesting concept, isn't it? Because obviously we are not familiar, like potentially like foreign or viewers are not going to be that familiar with
Mhm,
the different types of mangoes, if there are different types of mangoes, I don't even know. And
mhm,
so we would have missed that. So the fact that you got that
mhm,
vibe is clever of the scene
mhm.
itself.
Yeah,
So part 4 like starts out with Yoke drawing his mystery man.
I like this scene. I like how the teacher teaches them what nudes mean and how it's actually about vulnerability. Although I did think the model looked kind of distressed. It's about the feeling between the painter and the model, about the relationship that they create during this process. And
Mm.
I liked his empty gaze. It felt like he was in a trance while he was painting.
Yeah, I liked what the teacher said about how they said try and see like what the model is feeling, experience what you're feeling, and then try and draw that into the lines of the artwork. And this like mm, teaching experience or whatever does come into play later on. I liked the way his drawing was like half model, like nude model, half like his obsessive, like stalking slash, I don't know, desire to like see this guy again.
Yeah, yeah. It's like he was like he's so obsessed already. He that did not even realize who he was drawing.
Mm-mm. And drawing it from memory, from like those few seconds of like unconcentrate sorry, not unconcentrate, those few seconds of concentrated like one-on-one face-to-face like interaction that they had that was in the dark practically,
Yes.
and he's like able to draw him like that. It's so
But
funny.
he's so fixated. He's so intrigued. This is this big mystery in his life now, and he wants to know his face. This is why
Yeah.
he remembers all the traits that he shouldn't have remembered in the first place, because he wants to know more. He's longing to see his real features, to know who he is and why he did what he did. And it's such
Mm-mm.
a romantic thing, isn't it? He saved him. I mean, usually it's the one that gets saved that romanticizes the savior, but here it's the one who saved. The savior romanticizes the victim.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting actually because we sort of do see a little bit of like it's not so much romanticizing, but like there's definitely an interest from the other side.
Which
It's just
side?
not a from Una's side.
Oh, yeah, of course.
It's not an active interest. Like Yoke is like determined to find him, and Dan does not want to be found, but he is
Well,
happy
because
to
he has
observe.
baggage, he has his secrets. It's scary for him. He
Don't we
doesn't
all? No, I'm
really
just kidding.
start to think. So then we have this Sean with
Oh
Sean. The
God, I'm
Steve,
sorry.
the Steve,
I'm
the
sorry.
Sean
We
with
have
Sean. I don't want to
a
I don't
very,
want it to
very
go.
sexy, a very sexy Sean working on his bike, angsting over his future boo. Like this scene, uh, off John Paul, please put on a shirt.
I like how
He's
he's surrounded by
greasy and
red lights.
oily and sexy. There was light.
Yeah, red light. And he remembers you
Oh, that's
how
why he looked hot because he was bathed in red light.
I think the red light is supposed to represent his anger and maybe guilt and a lot of other things like passion. Red light represents different things. And I think maybe here it represents all the things in this
I
particular scene.
I love that for you that you even noticed the red light because I was just like I was barking at the screen. The only the only part where I started noticing stuff was after Goomba came and distracted me. Up until
No,
then, I was
it's
just
fun.
like
It's good that we have each other in this podcast. We balance each other out.
I was like, oh my god, somebody like roll me up in a burrito. I'm done. But yeah, I
Yeah, so he remembers White saying that how you said no one would get hurt if we learn the
yeah
burn the house down, and so he's still troubled. He's still thinking about it. He is
yeah.
doubting and questioning,
As I
and
said, he's
so
angsting over his future boo. And
yeah,
then we have Goompa who comes and sort of asks how everything went.
yes, and as we said, Graham thinks that Black was shocked.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting how Goomba thinks it's weird because the Black that he knows is not afraid of death. And Sean says something like maybe he's just bragging because he never had a near death experience before. But then Gumpa says no, because I know him. He doesn't just say stuff to be cool. And I think this dialogue is interesting because later, and I'm just saying this now because I think I will forget it when I get to that point. But remember, at some point, Black has a conversation with White where he says that you're not afraid of death until you experience it. And so it kind of means that now, after what happened to him, he started being afraid of death, which kind of makes me think that in this situation, Gumpa is wrong, that it would affect him. It's I don't know. It's just this conversation reminded me of that conversation that happens later.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it definitely depends on the person, on like how you react to things. Like it would
And I
definitely
was
depend on the
thinking about Black,
circumstances.
and this is how Gumpa sees Black, and then how Black expresses what he felt at what he thinks about death.
Mm-mm-mm. But then, as White said, as White says, as Sean says, he hasn't experienced it before, like as far as they know,
Exactly.
and he hadn't.
Yes.
So yeah, what happened to me in this scene, and I remember I had the exact same reaction the first time I watched this scene, was this was when I became suspicious of Goomba.
Oh. Oh.
Because like Sean Sean is like, what do we do? And Goompa's like, look, if he wants to quit, let him quit, and then he goes, or you go and beg him to come back. And it's like, dude, do you already know something? Or are you like just messing with Sean because you know he hates Black? Or is it because he's clearly angsting over it and this is not something he ever would have done before? And you're like, oh, this is interesting. I like to see more of this.
Oh
Which
yeah, I
I
think
get it.
it's
I get
definitely
it.
this.
That's
This
exactly.
let's
Sorry, what was that?
It's definitely the last version, the last.
Yeah, this is interesting. I want to see more of it. Yeah, this is what I get. I get it. I know it. I'm like, yes, yes, Sean, please go and beg him to come back. And then he was like, no way.
I mean, he did witness them roll in on the
True, he
floor.
did see him do like the gayest thing all lubed up on his garage
Yeah.
floor. Yes, that is true. So he's witnessed this shift in their dynamic, let's call it.
Mhm.
And now
Yeah.
he's got like Sean sitting in his garage pulling his bike apart for no reason. Essentially, having like an angst fest, and he's questioning things, whereas probably in the past, if Black had done something that Sean didn't like or didn't understand or whatever, he would have just been like, oh, fucking Black, blah, blah, blah,
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
rant,
Yeah,
rant,
yeah, yeah,
rant. And here he's like,
yeah,
do you think this is why he feels this way? Like, it's
yeah,
very, like, it's a
yeah.
total different vibe. So like
Uh-huh.
Goomba's, it's like the way he says to him, like, we just let him go then. And then he's watching Sean and then he goes, or. And
Yeah,
you can
because
just, you see the deviousness in him. He's like, or
yeah,
you
yeah.
could go and like, beg him to come back. And it's so funny too, because once again, he gives this like excuse to Sean. Because like later on,
Mhm.
Sean's like, I'm only here because Goopa told me to come.
Yeah, yeah,
Like he's 12 years old and he has to justify his every action so he doesn't get punished.
yeah. Yeah, just like when White justifies himself, Gumpa would have screamed at me as if, yeah, that is really scary. Gumpa screaming at you, or
Yeah.
Gumpa complaining.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. And it's like, it's like, you know, and also at the same time, we have White who's like questioning everything. We
Mirrors.
yes, and we switch to him in his little diplomatic test outfit. Um, and it's
He
like,
takes the glasses off,
yeah.
and then there's this moment when he feels Black's pain because.
Oh, this is such an amazing scene.
Okay, go on, talk about it.
No, I just
They
mean like it's just it's such an amazing scene of Gone. Like we, in Black's in hospital and he starts to crash, and
yeah,
White is like writhing on the floor, like his heart is also exploding. It's just
mm,
wow, I just love this. And it's like when he comes back into himself, it's like he has just had this reality check that they're connected. And you hear his inner dialogue, and he basically says that, and he says, like how he can't ignore reality, but he's like he can't ignore his brother, like he can't ignore their connection, even though he was feeling disconnected. Like the
yeah,
way he was feeling with his brother was a disconnect, but like that's not the reality of the situation. The reality is that they're connected, and he can't ignore it.
yeah, yeah.
So it is so
It
interesting.
puts
So he
him back.
starts to, yeah,
It puts
and
him
so
back on his original track.
that's
I
right.
really like this thing that he says. Black's heart reminds him that he cannot avoid reality. And
Mm,
it's both correct metaphorically speaking and also literally speaking.
it's clever.
Because, yeah, it's just, I love this line. Black's
Mm.
heart reminds him that he cannot, because Black just had some kind of, what was it, Zoe?
Oh well, it's
Doesn't
hard
have
to
an
know.
explanation.
Yeah, no, it's hard to know exactly what happened, but by the looks of things, they shocked him, so his heart, um, like slipped its rhythm. Essentially, he had a what's it called? Oh, medical terminology. Well, look, the easiest thing, what this would be referred to as a cardiac episode, because usually like who would know what would have caused that, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he's had got so
Hmm.
much trauma, and it's been several days, and then suddenly he has, like, and I'm using air quotation, a cardiac episode for like god knows what reason.
Hmm.
So yeah.
So
But
yeah,
yeah, what.
literally speaking, but metaphorically is Black's heart is their connection, is what cares about. All Black's life, just the fact that he is already involved in this situation. So this line is very, very clever.
Yeah. And I
So
like
then,
that I like that we see him shed his white persona, and he puts on the
yes.
black persona. And he does this thing like when he's putting on like the overshirt with like the hoodie bit on it. He does this thing where he kind of like rolls his neck or tilts his head back, and then he comes back, and it's like watching a chameleon like changing colors. Like it's like he becomes black in that second, or at least his version of black in that moment. And it's so interesting. It's such a like great like little
Ah,
acting
yes.
thing.
I, I love the scenes where he transforms into Black. And
Mm.
also the scene where, Black strips him of
Strips
this
him of it.
identity.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
All right. That's a
Yes.
conversation
So,
for another time.
yes, yes, yes.
And then so he
So
opens
then,
his door because he's like
yes,
rushing off to I don't know where, the hospital, I guess. And I just love how he opens the door to rush out, and Sean is just standing there on his doorstep looking fine, fine. I must tell you, he looked
dashing,
fine. He looked
dashing.
so good. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
this is a good looking man when you look good with like hardly any clothes on, but you also look really good with clothes on. You just look good. You wake up and you look good. You walked out the door, you looked good. He looked fine. And like White is so thrown to see him there.
Yeah.
And I love how like once again Sean goes into directly into concern mode. Like what is
I
happening to this
love.
boy? Like
I
he's
love how
like
he touches his forehead and he's like, "Are you okay?" And then he says in a mocking way, like, "Are you dying because you're cold?" And it's like he's asking because he's really curious, but he has to exaggerate to say this in order to
to save
distance
face.
himself,
Yeah. But it's like
as
he's
though he doesn't care.
yeah, it's like, like, yeah, like what's going on with you? You look like you're so pale, and they're reaching out, like as you said, like he touches him, like, oh, I don't even know, like it's this huge part of like what's going on with him, this dynamic shift between them, and it's like he's become somebody who reaches out and touches Black
Mm-hmm.
unconsciously. And it's like that is not something that would have ever happened. Like Black would not
Mm-hmm.
have let him in the first part,
Yeah.
but also it's suddenly like it's in his nature to touch this guy without even thinking about it,
And
and it's
Black
like
Black's response is to call him nosy, and that's all. And then he just watches him and studies him and is like puzzled by him, and this is all. And like this is so interesting, especially
And it's
later when Black appears and he's so different, and you realize that this would have never happened with the real Black.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like it's so funny because Sean starts talking about like, are you coming back? You know, you created this thing. And I'm just like, Sean, fire is not a metaphor that you should be using when talking to White, who
Mhm.
just like literally came out of a fire. But he's like, you lit a fire in their hearts and blah 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 blah, and they're their friend. You're just gonna quit. And I'm like, my dude, what are you doing? Stop using the fire metaphor on the guy.
Absolutely,
Um,
I think it's interesting because it's them using the fire metaphor, the writers in this episode, for a
oh,
lot
it
of
is.
things.
Of course
Because
it is.
and
But like from the
I just
sorry.
want to mention, I just want to mention that he says you brought us all to this point, and then he kind of feels like probably he has to distance himself or something, because he says you lighted a fire in their hearts when
Mm,
they were afraid. And I think
mm,
he's actually talking about himself here. And the fire can be uh, fear transforming into anger or life or purpose or hope. Because later he says, are you just planning to abandon them like this after, you lit this fire inside them or something, after the
mm,
fire has been lit? Because this is, before Black appeared, he was alone. This is again coming back to the idea of being alone that I mentioned in after the when he cried,
mm,
because now he has a support, he has a crew of people who he did feel like Black gave him a purpose, because he felt like he was alone, and a child who had absolutely no power against this, a big figure, a politician, corrupt person that just ruined his life. And now when he is trying to pull out of this thing, he feels abandoned. So he mentioned, well, now you're going to abandon them after you gave them this purpose. Because I do think Black has a lot of power over him.
I think he influenced him and everything and
Yeah,
gave him a like
I
a
mean,
concentrated direction to like focus all of his anger and vengeance and everything. Like I
he
definitely
would
believe
still,
that.
yeah, he would still go on. He would still go on now, even without Black. But it doesn't mean he would not feel abandoned.
No, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like I don't think it's the same as like I don't feel like how am I trying to word this? I feel like for him, like for Sean personally, I feel like it's White that lights a fire in him and not the other way around. Or maybe it's because
It
you're referring
depends,
to you're referring
because
to
the
giving him a
fire.
focus to his anger. Like the thing that
Yes.
because the problem is I don't
Well,
think
he mentioned
I
fear. He mentioned fear being
yeah.
transformed into anger, and I think this is what Black did to him, or helped him,
It's
define this
the thing that I
transformation. But
think
with White, it's
the issue that
life.
the issue that I'm having with it is he mentions in their hearts, and I feel like he feels dead inside because he wants to die. Like he does not care if he dies as long as Tawi is punished. Like
Well, yeah,
this instance of him, he does, and later on, he doesn't want to die anymore. He has all these feelings and love
I
and
agree. This idea does not contradict what I'm saying.
no, but it's only just because the separation, though. I mean, like I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I think that
Mhm.
he deliberately separates himself from that comment because his heart is dead. Nothing's been lit in his heart. I
I
don't
just
think.
don't think he'd say something like this to Black. He would not confess that to Black, that he helped him so much, that he feels like he owes
Well,
him, that he
I don't
feels like he
necessarily think he would
gave
either,
him
but
a purpose.
I feel like the separation is not because of that. I feel like the separation is because he doesn't feel anything in his heart. Well, I think he's starting to, but like that's different. But anyway, yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I just, yeah.
You don't think I'm wrong, you just want to contradict me. I know you, I know, we know
No,
it
I
happened.
just as I said, I agree with you in that he had an effect on him, and he may have like lit a fire in him. It just wasn't in his heart, I think, is what I'm trying to say. Which is why I think he
I don't know.
separates what, I don't know.
I
Let's
I
ask Kenichi. Shall I message her on Twitter and see if she answers? She's pretty good at talking to fans.
what if she actually answers?
I'll be like, look, I've got this podcast with my friend, and we've been arguing about. I
God.
need you to tell us which one of us is correct.
Yeah, it's such a weird question. Like, who cares about this? It's only us.
She'd be like, wait, what?
And like this is a question that does not have an answer. You have to create it for yourself, you know?
You know what? She would probably be just like, it's what you think.
Yeah.
I'd be like, damn it, which one of us?
Didn't she answer to something like this already? It's like
Yeah,
open to
yeah, yeah,
interpretation. Open
yeah, yeah.
open to interpretation.
It's open
Exactly.
to interpretation. Yeah, that's probably the answer we would get. In which case, we're
Yeah.
both right. Yay! Problem solved.
Which means I'm right because you said you do agree with me.
But I also think I'm right, so I just don't. I
Yes,
think
but
you're right, except for the heart bit. Anyway, moving
yeah, but
on.
I'm not focusing. I'm not focusing on the heartbeat that much. I
Yes.
don't feel like it matters a lot because you, when you say you want to light a fire inside someone, you might say inside their heart because it sounds more poetic, but not really, um, put that much of a weight on the heart words.
Yeah, I don't know though, but I mean,
This
this
is
is
how I
Sean,
read
so
it.
is
It
he
depends.
really going to
Depends on
be
how you
this
read it.
this poetic in front of Black? I don't know. Anyway, but
Exactly, because you don't want to be poetic in front of Black, but if it
I
happens that you words this way, you kind of want to distance yourself from it.
that or my other thought was that he just was randomly like using words because the boy in front of him was like really pretty, and he
Yeah,
just
the boy in front of him
wasn't
was very
really
pretty. He had
and wasn't
he
really and
something
wasn't
happening
and
to his
wasn't
heart and he had to mention the heart.
yeah, and he really wasn't like paying attention to what he was thinking, so he's just like saying random words, and the word heart came out because the boy is pretty. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, I love how his Sean's like, we're having a meeting tomorrow. Are you gonna come? Are we? Or he's just like, am I gonna see you or something? And White's like, you will if I go. And I'm like, this is like his version of I'll see you when I'm looking at you. Um, but I love how Sean is like, don't think I'll come back here again. I only came because Gulpa told me to.
Mm-hmm.
And
Thanks
then
for the information, Sean.
yeah, and then we have like White watching him leave, and we have that whole like I had this whole there's that saying where it's like I hate to see you go, but I love to watch you leave, and he's like
Oh, this is what was
watching him.
crossing my mind just now.
Yeah, he's like so intrigued. He's like, what is he doing like this? But also, and then we have like the gayest panic moment I think I've ever seen in television, which is like where where Sean starts to come back, sees that White is watching him, and then like runs away.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, what are you doing? Why was he going back? Like, what was his plan? Did he want to see if he could peek at him? I don't even understand. I'm so
Yeah,
confused by this,
there's
but I
just no
absolutely
explanation to this, other than the
I
fact that he just likes
is
him.
is having feels, and I just love this. And it's like
Yeah.
all of these little things are happening, and as I said, so later on when it's so obvious that there's something, when stuff starts happening and people were like, what? I was like, were you not watching the same show as me? Like what is all this? Like, this is just,
Yep.
there's no explanation for Sean's behavior in this last bit of this scene. There is literally no explanation. Someone give me an explanation and I'll prove you wrong. But yeah, it's um but yeah, and
Yeah.
so then we had
And so then Todd calls to tell him that Black's condition got worse, but he's okay now. And White just has this expression of on his face, like, yeah, I already know. And so he asks Todd to teach him, basically, I mean, to help him with something. And we know it's him asking to be taught to ride the big bike
Yep.
that is black.
Black's motorcycle. And I have to say, and I feel bad, like I'm objectifying the men of this episode, but I feel like it needs to be mentioned. This thing also looks really fine in this scene.
Yes.
I'm saying Sing
So
the actor, but yeah, Todd looks very fine in this scene. I'm like, what's wrong with all these
mhm.
fine men? And I was kind of like, I have a note on my notes that basically says I need to stop commenting on how pretty these boys are, but damn, they're so pretty.
So it's funny how he basically tells Todd that he doesn't think any of them has anything to do with Black's condition, but he just wants to keep watching. And he just mentions Sean just because, Sean is interesting. He doesn't get along with my brother. And then he says maybe Tawi and Black hate each other, and Tawi is to blame for uh, Black being in a coma. And Todd just encourages him to stay with the gang and just because like maybe he will find more information. Although what kind of information is he going to find out from the gang if they're not involved?
Yeah, it's probably okay to talk about the theory that my mom and I had. I
Oh.
know I said remind me in a couple of episodes time, but I think now that we've had like this like, you know, Tawi Black connection, that it's probably okay for me to like mention it now. So
Mhm.
basically my mom and I had this theory. I think it was her theory actually, but I like totally jumped on board. And we had this idea that, like how their mother and father split up because the mother was having an affair.
Yeah. What?
Their mother and their father was having an affair, or they were going to split up or something. Like, no, the father says something about like she left him for another man or something. I
I
can't
don't
remember.
remember another man being mentioned.
I swear another man is mentioned. Anyway, I'll have to go back and look and work out where it was.
I
But
don't think
anyway,
so.
no, I'm like pretty sure. Don't do this to me because I'm gonna have to go back and look now. It's gonna like
I
stress me
don't think
out a lot.
another man is mentioned.
I'm sure. Anyway, I think he says something. The father says something when White like inquires about his brother
I
and his mother.
understand you think the father says something. Go on with the theory. Go on.
Anyway, it's not important to my theory anyway. So my mom had this theory that this affair was with Tawi, who would have been young because I think
Mm-hmm.
he's a bit younger than the mother, but like she had this theory that like that was why the marriage broke up or whatever, and so like
Mm-hmm.
it was something maybe that Black found out, and while that would be upsetting or like whatever, but then found out that he was their father, the twins' father.
Tawi is the twins' father.
Yeah, like that was her
Wow.
theory, and I was like, oh, because that would mess you up.
Well, I don't think I would have agreed because if he was the father, then the White would not be left with this dad. They
No,
would
no,
not
but like
split
it's a
them up
big
like this.
secret. It's a big secret that White,
Mm,
not White, that Black found out about. Like the father doesn't know
mm,
that he's not the father.
mm-hmm. Okay. I see.
And then I,
Okay.
and so like bear in mind we were like a couple of episodes in, and this was her theory, and I was like, oh.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I was
I
like,
see.
well, that would add a different layer to things, and so things would happen,
Mm-hmm.
and we were like, how does this line up with your theory? And then we got to a point and I was like, I don't think that's right. She's like, why not? And I'm like, I don't know. It feels too soap opera-ish at this point. But
Uh-huh.
it would explain like his intense anger for no real apparent reason that like White could see. Like from an outsider's perspective, like why he was so like we know why Sean is angry at Tawi. And we get
Mm-hmm.
like you get why um Graham has an issue. And Yoke is
Mm-hmm.
just like whatever. But like
Mm-hmm.
Black's sort of intense, issue with him without other explanation. It was like it fit, but it was just so funny. it was very intricate in her in her
Mhm.
theorizing. But yeah, so we had many conversations about whether or not Tawi could. No, because I was like, I don't know. I reckon he's too young. But yeah, because then of course we're thinking, like, we're watching and we're thinking, and stuff like this. And my mum goes, and because of course, um, I'll bring it up again at a later point, because if I mention it now, I'm going to spoil something that happens later on in the story. But
Mhm.
there's something that happens later on in the story, and we were like, oh no, what if it's true?
Mhm.
But yeah, anyway, so moving along.
Okay. So then there's this innuendo happening where White says, hope on," and Todd says, "Hope on what? Are you sure you can handle it?" And White just
Yeah,
pretends he doesn't understand what's happening because he's there to learn some stuff.
and I was like, here we go again, Sing trying to get in the middle of Octon.
So, so then he tells him he needs to start to think like Black, to have no fears or hesitations.
What I like about this scene is how, like, Todd, when Todd gets on the back of the bike and they're riding around and stuff, and he says to him, that he's doing a good job, and White says he's not very confident. And so he teases him and he tells him, he should go really fast. And White's response is to say, no way. Um, and so Todd says to him, if you don't want them to find out, you need to learn to think more like Black. He says Black has no fears or hesitations. If you keep on like this, you're going to get exposed or you're going to get caught. Because he's like trying to encourage White to be a bit of a rebel, to go a bit faster, to be a bit more wild. And White is still like going slowly, observing the road rules, pulling up at the lights, and then Sean is there. And then it's a challenge, and now he's breaking the
Yeah.
rules. He's like he's going on the red instead of waiting for it to turn green, because Sean just basically, it was like, like waving a red flag at a bull. Like Sean said, oh, whoever gets there like last. Like first off, he says to him, "Are you going to the garage?" Which is not what he was doing. He was not on his way to the
Mhm.
garage. He was having a driving lesson with Todd.
Mhm.
And then he's like, like first, like last one there, losers or something like that. And so suddenly,
Mhm.
not only is he now racing, as I said, he's breaking the law by going on a red. He's now following Sean. It's a challenge, and he's now going to somewhere he wasn't planning on going, all just because Sean pulled up next to him and was like, "What's up?" Basically.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I love how you know he's
Sean
he's
gave him courage.
yeah, but like he's
Yeah.
having this in a monologue where he's talking about like how suddenly he feels free. It's like, isn't that interesting? Oh, and he's like puts it down to being on the bike, and he mentions
Mhm.
like the drag force and the wind and stuff, and then he
Yeah.
says, like, he comes back and brings it back to that he's concerned about this thing that they've done is going to have a drag force, like it's going to have consequences that they won't be able to avoid in the future. So he mentions that.
Mhm. He says something that I found so amusing. He says, "Sometimes I seek an explanation for every action." And I'm like, yeah, this is us on this podcast.
Yeah. I found that comment from him so interesting, and I'll get to that in a second. But like this
Mhm.
scene, I love everything about it. Like down to the fact that the little taillights on the back of the motorcycles look like hearts. Like they look
Yeah,
like
yeah.
little love hearts, which I'm sure is not
Mhm.
intentional, but they just do. So like it's like they're riding their bikes down the road, love hearts on the back. And as I said, I love his inner dialogue. I love how he's talking about um how he's starting to understand what his brother was saying about the freedom being the oxygen of the soul, and he's feeling the wind, and all this sort of stuff. And then but it's
Mhm.
not even about that. Like it's like, yes, okay, riding the bike for him is, whatever, but the challenge is riding with Sean. It's like this is the competition between him enjoying playing with Sean. Essentially he's pushing himself because Sean challenged him, and now he's feeling brave, right? And he's
Mhm.
not afraid. It's like it's not even something he's concerned about. Like he's just, it's like he's just there for the ride, but like then he pulls
Mhm.
ahead, and now suddenly he's taking Sean for a ride, and he says about, like, as you said, he says about how he's someone who questions how things work, which is interesting because, like, he is so insulated. So, like, he clearly doesn't question much, would be my comment.
Yeah.
And then he says, I seek an action for, every whatever, and sometimes, yeah,
And it's
sometimes
only about if it's only if Sean is involved,
that's
obviously.
right.
This is
Yeah,
why this thought popped into his head.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
puzzled by Sean, he's intrigued by Sean. He wants
Yeah,
to know
well, because
more.
he
He
says,
wants to
like,
be
he
around
can't
him.
make, yeah, he can't make sense of Sean. Like, he's fascinated,
Hmm.
and he says this time, like, he can't work out what the guy behind. I can't work out what the guy behind me is thinking, and it's like literally the only thing besides his brother being okay and, like, finding out who hurts him is, like, he wants to know how Sean thinks. And I love this so much. I love them so much. And the way this episode ended, and I was just like, I want to watch so much more. I watched the trailer for, like, episode 3, and I was like, I want to watch it.
Oh, I did not watch it.
Oh, episode 3 has this,
Don't
like,
don't don't don't. I want to. Don't want to remember. I want to try distance myself and just not think about it until the moment we will watch it and talk
I
about it.
can't, I can't not think about it now because I saw it and I'm swooning. Anyway, it was just really like, wow. Episode
Oh,
3, I
oh my
can't believe.
God! What have you done? I remember. I remember something. Oh
Do
God.
you remember the swoony moment?
Oh
It's like
yeah.
the most romantic thing ever. It should never be romantic, but it's so romantic. I love it on all the levels.
Oh
I love it on the Shaun White level. I love it on the off-gun level. I love it on all of the levels. All of the levels are good.
God. Oh, let's stop talking about it. I don't want to remember more.
It's literally the only thing I can remember. Like, I watched the entire trailer, but even from the
Uh-huh.
trailer, like, I don't remember. I just remember that I went, "Oh, that's episode 3."
Yeah.
And then I was, like, hyper focused on that, like, fixated. Nothing else happened in episode 3 except for that. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
not, but yeah. So anyway,
Okay, so I guess this is it.
maybe this conversation will prompt people who haven't seen the show to now go and watch episode 3. Go and watch episode 3 quickly. We'll put the podcast out for it soon. You won't regret it.
Okay, so thank you for spending your time with us. Follow us on Twitter, on Tumblr, on Spotify, interact with us. Goodbye.
Bye bye.